Babe, guess who made partner?
Did someone say home renovations?
50% salary increase.
Maybe even some new art.
Shares on shares on shares.
And a new convertible. For hubby, of course.
Babe.
When your lifestyle changes, so should your insurance. Santam's executive insurance solution. Bespoke insurance with extensive cover, exclusive service, and a dedicated claims team to meet your unique needs. Speak to your intermediary or visit santam.co.za to find out more. Santam. Insurance good and proper. An authorized FSP.
Kaya Biz.
And to expand on this conversation, we've been building up since yesterday, reflecting on how it is that municipalities actually collect their revenues, how their revenues need to be accounted for, and most importantly, the flow of that money, right? How it moves from you as a tax-paying citizen, someone who pays your levies and, of course, additional costs from a municipal point of view, and how that then gets accounted for and used to deliver services to the local environment and local government that you live in. We continue our conversation today, primarily focusing around how municipalities actually fall into financial distress. And this conversation will be unpacked by the Chief Revenue Advisor of Ntiso Consulting, Mielani Oleni. Mielani, thank you so much for your time, sir, and welcome back to the show today.
Hi, good evening again, Gugu, and good evening to the listeners.
Indeed. I am so intrigued by your brain, first and foremost, because I think you really do help us in terms of understanding all things to do with public financial management, which is important. And yesterday we built up on an important theme, Mielani, where you highlighted the flow of income and ensuring that there's certain protocols, laws, regulations, and orders that need to be followed to make sure that municipalities can manage the flow of revenue quite adequately. But help us understand, from what we read in the headlines, we're well aware that many municipalities are in financial distress. How does that happen, though? Help us understand how this is typically a flaw or fault that municipalities do fall into.
Sure. Back to the analogy that, or the example we discussed yesterday, that a municipality is a business in the public sector. We also see from time to time that businesses in general can fall into difficulties, particularly financial difficulties, and other sorts of difficulties, for instance, where you may find that there is no consensus with regards to how the board wants to take the strategy forward and how the management sees the strategy going forward. And this I use as an example because of the fact that within municipalities, there is the political leadership, which is the executive mayor, the councillors, and all the other positions that are there. Let's classify them for intents and purposes as the board, but as the council for the municipality. Then there's the officials who are the administration, your municipal manager or your city manager, depending on whether it's the city or a local, and the CFOs, the technical managers, and so on. Often you may find that, there may be differences in terms of working relationships. There may be differences in terms of emphasis of projects that must be done. But to take it further as well is those differences at times may lead at times to perhaps lack of accountability or lack of or dereliction of duties sometimes with regards to certain areas. But oversight is key, because the political leadership provides oversight over the administration of the municipality. So it is important that they keep and they work together. And where there's a breakdown, that's when you start to see, for instance, difficulties around decision-making, delay in decision-making, resolutions perhaps not implemented, certain aspects not signed on time. If council doesn't sit and so on, it may cause to some of the difficulties where the municipalities may not function properly. And that can have now an impact into the other areas, including financial. But financial has also got other dimensions. Perhaps I can just pause there.
Indeed. And I'm already intrigued because, as you say, it's the political party, right, that provides the mandate and the oversight, not only of a municipality, its operations, but also its finances. And this makes one wonder, how do you actually ensure that either through the political party or those who get appointed to these key roles and positions, that they are adequately skilled. And I say this because so often we always hear about the PFMA Act, but also having individuals who fully understand the Public Finance Management Act and also have the necessary skills to work in that particular environment.
Yeah, it is quite important that as we go into the new terms, you may find that there may be officials that may have, for whatever reason, be in position under a particular political leadership. And often you kind of see people being jittery because, at times, as officials may get used to working, under a particular leadership. And when new leadership comes on board, there may be, for instance, difficulties to strike a good working relationship such that there's continuity. And really there should be continuity, and that is what we'll be advocating for, because municipalities fall into distress for a number of reasons. A lack of continuity in the leadership that is there, and especially the ones who are administrating, because they must move the day-to-day items of service delivery, of signing off documents, of procuring items, and a host of other things that a municipality must have in place on a daily basis. So that continuity is required. And if there's lack of continuity, you may find that the institutional memory can be lost to an extent that it takes time to build up the momentum. By the time it gets to midway of the term, it's only then that things are starting to improve. But a lot of areas may slip to such an extent that municipalities are not functioning well. And that loss of institutional memory, if we now dig deeper into the municipality, you may find that maybe there was a project management unit that was in place, which for whatever reason has been destabilized or is not operating optimally. Therefore, that affects service delivery, it affects expenditure and spending of budgets with regards to CAPEX, proper and implementation of projects, and we can replicate it into the various areas. If risk management is not in place, you may find that there is a host of risks that creep in unmanaged, and when they materialize, it means that there's a crisis within a particular municipality. You can go to the ICT services, but more specifically from the financial side, because that is where the indicators come in. All of a sudden, the coffers are dry. There's not sufficient revenue flowing in because spending is not at the level that it should be. National Treasury, with its lenses, looks into the municipalities and perhaps says, you're not spending the grants that are extended to you, therefore we are going to now withhold them, or for whatever reason, so that there's not wastage. So all of those things can then grind a municipality to a halt because of not having the processes in place. And in other cases, the distress of municipalities could be via governance issues, political issues, financial issues, and pure lack of service delivery, where communities are then saying, you're not delivering the services to us, and therefore we are going to intervene by embarking on mass action, and we are going to whatever this and so on. And we've seen the destruction of property that typically goes with some of this, and that can affect the functioning going forward.
Indeed. Melanie, very briefly, as you mentioned, we do see that a number of municipalities do fall under administration, and when they do, it becomes very difficult for them to work their way out of administration and become more financially flexible, viable and sustainable. What are some of the possible solutions that can be implemented to minimize not only the number of municipalities falling into distress, but moving them out of administration?
And that is an area which I think there's a lot that still needs to be done, because that kind of distress, and as soon as the Constitution, the section 139 of the Constitution is applied, it means that the municipalities in that case are going to now stay in that state until they show remedies. There must be interventions from the provincial. There must be various experts that are going to assist the municipalities. So in this case, we would like to at least start by saying if municipalities are in distress, the correct diagnosis must be undertaken such that we know exactly whether to then take them forward into administration, so to say, and at what level should they be in administration. Because oftentimes we may find certain municipalities could be rescued, but whereas they are now accelerated into administration, and oftentimes you need then a strong administrator who's going to also have a team, or at least to be able to work with the officials that are there to work out a plan. So you need a financial recovery plan that is credible, that is sound, that takes into account all the aspects. And the word financial recovery plan is perhaps misleading, because really it's a recovery plan for the entire municipality.
Yes.
It just so happens that it has the prefix of financial, but it's actually a recovery plan for the entire aspect of the municipality. And in some cases, they've also gone ahead to call it the financial sustainability plan. So what we're advocating for there as well is that for municipalities that fall into administration, let's have a team that is going to work with the current officials and draft a realistic plan addressing the core root causes as opposed to the symptoms of why that municipality would have fallen into administration or stress.
Going back to the root causes of these, and as you say, not just looking at the effects, but fully getting to understand how we recover a full municipality, because everything is interlinked. It's not just the money. The money is but one resource that helps to ensure that service delivery does take place. Mielani, thank you so much for your time. So really appreciate it, as well as how it is that you're assisting us to educate and advance our knowledge in terms of how we head to the polls and rethink the value, the role, the function, and the importance of municipal elections and local government elections. That was our guest this evening, Mielani Oleni. He's the Chief Revenue Advisor at Ndiso Consulting. He'll be with us again tomorrow and on Thursday, expanding on this broad theme of fully understanding the financial and economic impact of local government elections and their importance to us as South African citizens.
Kaya Biz with Gugulethu Mfuphi, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. on Kaya 959.
On the street.